Classic Restos Trucks Edition Series 2, proudly brought to you by Gleeman Truck Parts, Premier One Products, and Shannons Insurance, where you can become a member of the Shannons Club. Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Classic Restos Trucks Edition. And of course, the major sponsors play a vital role in bringing you Series 2 of Classic Restos Trucks Edition. When you're after the best in parts for your classic truck, the best in insurance for your classic truck, cleaning products for your classic truck, and when you're feeling a little peckish, whether it's breakfast, lunch or dinner or any other time in between and you feel like cracking the good egg, go to classicrestos.com.au. The major sponsors' logos are there on the homepage, and if you click on those, you'll be directed to their websites for more information as to how they can help you. And on this week's episode of Classic Restos Trucks Edition, this is it, my friends. I have travelled to Alice Springs, Northern Territory in Central Australia to show you just some of the National Road Transport Museum Hall of Fame. This is Alice Springs. There's no time for the pussies or the faint-hearted out here. It's as tough as it gets. If you have just the slightest interest in anything mechanical, bike, car or truck, this is as good as it gets. Representing the National Road Transport Hall of Fame is a very important episode in this series of Trucks Series 2. It's an initiative of the Alice Springs-based Road Transport Historical Society. The amazing thing is that it's a community-based volunteer organisation dedicated to the preservation of Australia's unique road transport heritage, which means the work comes from the heart. And when we talk about our classic truck drivers, their passion derives from their hearts as well. Well, you may be asking why out here in Alice Springs. The first thing that belts you around the head when you arrive is the atmosphere. Hot, hard and tough. Things don't get much tougher on transport anywhere in the world than here in outback Australia. The concept was born out of a concern that most trucks from yesteryear were rusting away on rural properties and cattle stations. And it's the old story, restore them or preserve them. What better place? A public meeting was called in 1992 with the Road Transport Historical Society, and a motivated group of volunteers began collecting vehicles, photos and memorabilia. Just 3 years later, on July 31st, 1995, the National Road Transport Hall of Fame was officially opened. The concept for the museum is unique to most other road transport memorials throughout the world in that it has taken a lateral approach to the restoration of vehicles. You won't find rows of pristine off-the-production line trucks here. The policy is to show vehicles as they were in their working lives, including the crude modifications and adaptations that bush mechanics and engineers had to undertake to ensure they could perform in Australia's harsh working environment. These vehicles are testimony to the trials and tribulations of our road transport industry's pioneers, essentially Australia's unsung heroes. The charter is to cover all forms of transport, from the camel strings of old through to today's modern road trains and stretchliner coaches. The aim is to be truly representative of Australia's road transport industry, covering all sectors of industry and all areas of Australia. Now, this particular trip to Alice Springs is a special thanks to Gleeman's Truck Parts and PACCAR, Kenworth, Australia. Without these fine companies, I would have nothing to entertain you with. And one look around here, it's easy to see why Kenworth is up there with the world's best in trucks. The Kenworth Dealer Hall of Fame comprises around 11,000 square feet of display space devoted to the history of the Australian designed and built Kenworth, and the dealer network that brings this product also provides backup support to customers across Australia. This glorious Kenworth here behind me is a K125R, or known to the diehards as the Grey Ghost. This was in fact the first Kenworth that was designed and manufactured here in Australia. This was Kenworth chassis 400008 and was originally built in March 1971 for Alltrans Limited, the Comet division, to conduct parcel delivery operations on the eastern seaboard of Australia. The truck recently resurfaced after working for 30 years since its manufacture. The cabin was refurbished and painted in the original German silver racing colour. Once the chassis was finished, a van body was purchased that is similar to the original van used by Comet when the vehicle was brand new. The K125R featured an N60 Detroit with a Jacobs brake, Fuller transmission, Rockwall suspension and rode on Kenworth torsion bars. What a true mark of respect. Well, I know one thing, you can rest easy, big girl, because your hard days are done. Alice Springs has long been a transport hub for one of the most remote regions in the world. Probably because it's over 2,000 kilometres from the sea or other major population centres in any direction. From the early days of camel trains right through to recent times, goods have been transshipped through Alice Springs on their way to or from the northern port of Darwin or far-flung settlements throughout the sparsely populated Northern Territory, outback Queensland and Western Australia. It has a special place in Australian road transport industry as the birthplace of the road train and for the unique challenges of vast distances in the toughest conditions on the continent. Have a look at this pile of junk here. A man bought this once, brand new. Imagine how he felt when he drove it away from the dealership. A man went to work every day in this truck and probably paid his house off with it, put a couple of kids through school, and at least paid itself off. And today, here it sits at the Road Transport Hall of Fame Museum here in Alice Springs. I don't think anything here should be looked upon as junk, but more so vehicles of pride from owners a long time ago. Well, I hope you're really enjoying this week's episode of Classic Restos Trucks Edition Series 2. Don't forget the major sponsors when it comes time for the best in parts for your classic truck, insurance for your classic truck, cleaning products for your truck. And when you're peckish and it's time for the good egg, go to classicrestos.com.au for more information. Stay in your favourite chair. We'll be back with more from this sensational museum in just a moment. Welcome back. Well, here I am actually inside the main Hall of Fame Museum here at Alice Springs. And to tell us more, here's Kel Davis.
Well, Fletch, this is Lindsay Brothers' #1 truck. Belonged to the boy's father, and he used to cart produce to Sydney from Coffs Harbour in this old Ford.
Doesn't it reflect population back in those times? Look at the size of the tray, and to drive such a long way.
Yes, they were big trucks in their day, but today they're only tiny trucks compared to what we're using today.
So this is truck #1.
This is #1.
That's amazing. Well, what does it mean to you as a volunteer here and a hard worker at that? Got to give this guy credit. What does it mean to you to see some of these vehicles here?
It just puts the icing on the cake for this particular museum, and we're quite proud of what we've achieved here through all our members and all that sort of thing. So it's people, when they come here, they can't believe the size of the place. And 22 years ago, it was just a scrub block. There was nothing on it. We've built everything here now. Yeah. So it's quite... We even stop, take stock ourselves and look and say, did we really do that?
It's certainly a credit to you. Let's move on to the next one, eh, Kel?
Righto, Fletch.
Okay, Kel, tell us about this Transstar.
This Transstar comes from Lock in Victoria. It was given to us by Jim Jackson, who's a carrier come primary producer. Old Jim was very methodical with it. He didn't want it to be sold to anybody else, and there was quite a story about how it got there, but I won't go into that. That'll take too long. But Jim used to come up every year and have a look at it and make quite sure we were looking after it. Anyway, he died a couple of years ago, and so it's in memorial to Jim himself. So,
Kel, the Transstar, pretty cool truck back in their day. If you had a Transstar, you were doing okay.
Well, if you had a Transstar, you were king of the road those days. I used to look at them and think, God, I wished I could afford one of those, but I had an old AB. That did me.
As I've said many times before too, the size of the country hasn't got any smaller over the years. I mean, these old trucks were still doing the miles, weren't they?
Oh, yes. Especially this type of truck, with the 871 GM in them, they were really pulling some loads. And And they were flying backwards and forwards to Sydney, Melbourne, or Perth, across to Adelaide and all those sort of things. So,
Well, if anything, they probably went further because they didn't have the expressways like now that took you in a straight line.
yes, I remember from the border in New South Wales, the Murray River, used to take 14 hours to get to Sydney with a full load, going up and down those hills. Now they do it in 7 hours, I think. I'm not sure, but it's about 7 hours.
Kel, what does a Transstar run behind us here, engine-wise?
871 GM, yep.
Gearbox, driveline?
A 15-speed Road Ranger.
You can't catch this bloke out. He knows all.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. There's plenty of blokes come here and they try to trick you, but I've been here too long.
Yeah. Good on you, Kel. What's our next truck?
I reckon they show you the difference between the two Scanias, what people do to make other makes of truck go when they don't suit Australia.
Moving through this sensational episode today here at the Hall of Fame Road and Transport Museum here at Alice Springs. It is absolutely amazing. You've got to try and get here if you can. It's one place, it's a must-see.
I would think so if you're in the transport industry, or even just to know where your bread and butter comes from. Yeah. A lot of people don't realise how much involved trucks are to getting their daily bread to themselves.
Well, every single thing that we buy, no matter how big or small, off every shelf has been put there by a truck. And it's not the sort of stuff you spring out of bed of a morning and think about it. It is taken for granted, isn't it? It
is taken for granted. Like, we've done a bit of an exercise here, and it's just over 150 trucks are involved in one slice of bread. When you go back to the farmer, when he gets his superphosphate, when he sows his crop, when the crop's harvested, carted, then the flour, and you just keep going on and on and on. And we worked out there's around about 150 truck movements involved in one slice of bread.
It's amazing. Imagine that, getting up of a morning and having to make 150 phone calls to all the separate truck drivers just to get a piece of toast. I'd just rather get it out of the plastic bag.
Well, most people do, don't they? They don't realise what's happened beforehand.
It's amazing statistics. Now, Kel, this is a little interesting story here. We've got two European trucks. Now, with all due respects, Australia is a harsh land. The European trucks had a problem in the early days with overheating. Now, the truck behind you is a standard truck. Tell us the story with the one next to us here, Kel.
The one next to us was overheating, and Brian Arrowsmith got really mad with it one day, and he pulled all the bonnet and mudguards off the front of it, and he put a big radiator in it and tried it out, and it worked. So then he went to Adelaide and got somebody to manufacture him a new bonnet, and he didn't have much trouble with it after that. And he called it the Fearless Fowl after that. The griffin on the side he thought was a chook. But his children have done this truck up as a memorial to Brian. So it's quite a significant truck in this museum.
It certainly is, and it's also so nice too as a tribute. But having said that, the only one in Australia too, right?
Well, it is in the modified way, yes. Yeah. Yes, it is.
I mean, I'm looking at the engine cowling. I'm trying to see the resemblance. I mean, I can see a bit of Mac there. I mean, it's really got its own shape, hasn't it?
Well, it's got a Volvo grille. It's got AA International headlights, and so there's a bit of everything there. But it does, when you look at it, it looks a bit like an R model Mac front end, if you know what I mean.
Talk about the early days, getting a European truck and making it withstand Australian conditions. Absolutely amazing.
But that's the nature of Australian truckies. If it doesn't work, they'll fix it and make it work. You look at old Kurt Johansson, what he did with his 1942 Diamond T. He was pulling 5 50-foot trailers behind it in 1946. You know, and they were self-trackers going through the desert, and he was pulling up to 90 tonnes. Admittedly, not very fast, but he was still pulling 90 tonnes at the time.
And he didn't have hundreds and hundreds of horsepower, did he?
He had a 671 GM in it, so what's that, 195 horsepower, 185, somewhere about that?
Yeah, just goes to show, doesn't it, eh? So the old technology, the basics, bit of torque on your side doesn't go astray.
He had plenty of gears, so that's what he used to play with. Yeah, yeah. And then when he bought the Rotten off, he reckoned that was the best truck for getting through the desert he ever owned, because it had the low down gears to crawl through creeks and things like that. So, but he used to do the same to it, put about 5 trailers behind it. He's the man that brought the first load of road train load of cattle to Alice Springs from Murray Down Station and load them onto the train here. So there's a bit of history there.
It's amazing, isn't it? Wouldn't it be great to be in the pub and someone comes up and says, well, what do you do? And to be able to back then say, well, I've just delivered the first load of cattle via a road train.
Yeah. Oh, he wasn't that sort of man, though. It was just water on a duck's back to old Kurt.
It was work. It was their job. They just did what they had to do.
That's right. It was just something he did, a bit like old Tom Cruise getting the mail through to Birdsville.
Absolutely. It's the same as every other driver that owned these trucks. They had no idea one day that they'd be here in a museum.
No.
Incredible stuff. What are we doing next?
How about we look at the road boss?
All right.
There's a bit of a story there.
All right, let's go and have a bit of a story. Kel's always got a story. When we talk iconic trucks, early 80s, the white road boss. What a truck in their day.
It was the truck, wasn't it? This has got the 350 Cummins in it. And this particular truck was owned by the bloke called Lou Cooper in Western Australia, training in Western Australia. And he, at one stage, was president of the Livestock Hauliers Association of Australia. He bought it when it was a year old, and he drove it for 26 years with road trains behind it, with grain and stock. And and I said to Lou, when he bought it over to us, he drove it through the desert to here. I said, Lou, why are you giving us this truck? He said, well, look at it this way, Kel. When I'm in my 80s and I'm in my wheelchair, he said, I want to come pat the old girl that gave me a good living. And he said, I don't want to sell it to a young bloke who'll hot it up and wreck it. And he said, I want to see it here forever.
I can't put words to that. I mean, that's just such touching stuff, isn't it? I mean, the legacy of, particularly Alice Springs with the beginning of the road trains and where these drivers go back, it just goes back so far. And it'd be interesting if you added all those miles together, it'd be just countless billions.
It'd be phenomenal, the miles. And it wasn't easy miles, it was hard miles, like, okay, I thought I had it hard going up and down the Hume Highway and from Yarrawonga to Melbourne. I thought that was hellish and hard, climbing those few hills. But these blokes had it. I always remember my father, he was president of the Australian Shorthorn Society, and we'd bought a new AB 184 into, and we thought we were big-time truckies, my brother and I. Dad come home and he said, he'd been up to the territory here, and he said, you don't know what a big truck is. He'd seen these trucks up here.
Some of the early road trains, where do they go back? Like around the 40s? Where did it actually start?
Our road trains actually started in the 1800s, which the first one we know of was a steam engine in Dampier, WA, but it only made 100 yards up the beach and got bogged and they couldn't get it out, so they pulled it to bits and used the engine for different pieces. And then you've got the Farina road train, the one at Ilfracombe. They were 1908 Renards, and they had a night sleeve valve engine. They used a lot of fuel. The one at Farina kept breaking down, so they gave that up after a little while. And I suppose the next real road train, other than caterpillars and pulling wagons and things, was the government road train that was up here in 1934. It worked till 1954. Yeah. So it did a lot of miles. And we were lucky enough to get the grandson of the engineer who brought it to Australia. He's an engineer too, and he brought all his father's diaries of bringing it up to Alice Springs in 1934. So we were really lucky. And also the government gave us all the diaries of the first drivers, the first 10 drivers.
Just amazing stuff. You're watching the Hall of Fame, and you're watching it first on Classic Restos. Back with more after this. Welcome back. If you're a train buff, well, you're catered for in today's episode. You can't come here to Alice Springs and not see this. The Ghan Heritage Railway System, putting an end to isolation. It opened up the centre of Australia and helped to join people. The old Ghan began on the Great Northern Railway in 1878 to link Port Augusta with Darwin and open up Central Australia. The southern section of the line reached Alice Springs back in 1929, and the train running this line became known as the Ghan. after the Afghan camel drivers who had contributed to the development of communication and transport links in inland Australia. In 1856, the first steam railway was opened in South Australia. The Port Augusta Railway Act was passed in 1862, and South Australia assumed control over the Northern Territory in 1863. The overland telegraph line was finished in 1872. Work began on the railway in 1878, but the first steam train, engine number NM35, only reached Stuart in 1929. The Ghan could take anything from 3 days to 3 months to complete a journey. The history of the Ghan is absolutely sensational, and just something else for you to experience when you visit the Road Transport Hall of Fame Museum here in Alice Springs. But now it's time on the show to find out exactly how this place obtained its name, Hall of Fame. But before we go inside, I just want to let you know how much I love this place. And if you didn't love this, for example, well, you'd be nothing but just an old crank.
Fletch, the significance of the Hall of Fame is actually our Wall of Fame. If you look behind me, there's 900 names, 900 odd names, I should say, of people who range from owners, big owners of trucking companies, right down to mechanics, the girl behind the counter, people who have been significant in the transport industry. We are trying to recognise their contribution to Australia's economy.
It's almost emotional.
And when you come here and see the ceremony and everything, there's tears, there's laughter, there's the whole gamut of emotions. You know, some people come here because their father died a couple of years ago, and they're very emotional to think that he's been recognised. To give you an example, when Daphne and Kojak Nolan came here for their induction, they were inducted and then they went to walk away, and I said to them, "Terry, just wait a minute," and all their kids came up. And Daphne said, "How the hell did you get there? I pay all the checks." So that's the funny side of it, but there's also the sad side too.
It increases the respect, even walking around here and seeing the photos and the names and relating it to the transport companies that we see out on the highways. We just take for granted.
And it's not only the ones that are on the highway now, it's the past as well. You know, the Price Hills who fought the government for free trade between the states, Noel Buntine, all those sort of people.
And women played a big part in the transport industry as well, with their own section, which is nice too.
Yeah, well, when you look through these photos, there's quite a significant amount of women on the wall. You know, Toots Holzheimer's from Cairns, you know, all those sort of people. The industry can't work without them. I think they're an integral part of the industry.
It's a little bit like the volunteers here at this museum. Kel, I want to thank you. It's been a big 2 days here, and you've been a fantastic cooperation in assisting with this TV episode, and I would like to thank you, mate. It's been wonderful. Thanks very much, Kel.
This is what I love doing. I love doing this.
Good on you. Yeah. I can tell.
Well, the transport industry was good to me, so yeah. I've got to be good back to it. Well, Fletch, thanks for persisting with the TV show and coming out here to highlight what we're doing. A lot of people don't understand what transport does for them, and this is one way we can show people. Yeah.
It's been my pleasure, Kel.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed just a sample of the National Road Transport Hall of Fame Museum here in Alice Springs, Northern Territory, on this week's episode of Classic Restos Trucks Edition. But the next time you see a big truck on the road, consider this: how much we depend on their industry, the pride that most take in their vehicles, the family history that continues today, the problems they are faced driving countless kilometres while you and I are asleep. Without these men and women, without their devotion, as a nation, we stop. In the meantime, please try and consider the major sponsors wherever you can. And until next week, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au.